It's not TV, it's HPO.
It's not TV, it's HPO.
Hope, positivity, and optimism.
Hope, positivity, and optimism.
Joseph Jaffe is not famous.
Joseph Jaffe is not famous. Mwah.
Meet Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Jason Jaffe, you my friend. Jason Jaffe, you too. You famous.
You famous?
You famous.
No, you famous.
You famous.
No, you famous.
You famous.
Yes, we famous.
Oh, very good, very good. Oh, I love you. I love you. Goodbye, goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Jason Jaffe, my friend. Jason Jaffe, my friend.
Goodbye.
I love you, Jason Jaffe. Wow, I love you, Jason Jaffe.
Am I being overconfident? Am I becoming complacent about complacency?
I think you are.
Oh, he's not the Messiah. He's just a very naughty boy.
Yeah, I've got big ears.
I just want to see anyone else. Piss off.
That's the one. Because you literally complete me, and we complete each other.
You've obviously encountered discrimination in your own life by virtue of being Australian. So,
Hey, Manuel Kemp was a real pissant who was very rarely stable.
I don't want to get too gushy, but I might just be saying you complete me, Dean. PNG now stands for Pritchard and Good.
Branding is not a bad blind date. Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're
How did I do
insane!
that?
You're insane!
Look, am I showing too much skin? I think I might be. Let me just button this up. Look, it's 4:20 today. We are pre-recording, but it's 4:20. So you maybe you're watching this at 4:20 p.m. or 4:20 a.m. But April 20th is April 20th, and let's celebrate. Let's just celebrate chilling out. Let's celebrate being together. Let's celebrate the one, the only Lisa Copeland. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about investing. We're going to talk about wealth creation. Generally, I'm going to be asking her, how? Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. How do I generate wealth in this crazy, crazy world that we're living in? But we're going to chat about this. We're going to chat about mediocrity. We're going to chat about Pilates. We're going to chat about many different things. And I certainly hope you enjoy the show. I'm already enjoying it as well. Maybe a little bit too much. But Lisa will be on the show shortly. If you like the show, if you love the show, if you like or love me, quite frankly, even if you hate me, please subscribe to the show. In fact, if haters are going to hate, then you need to be close to me. What do they say? Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. bit.ly/subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. 450 plus episodes. It really has been a gift. In addition, every single morning, Monday through Friday, every weekday morning, from 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a little bit of virtual coffee in what we call the Collective Cafe. All you have to do is go to discord.gg/Alpha Collective and actually listen in. You can listen in voyeuristically while you're getting the kids ready for school, whether you're on the treadmill, whether you're doing Pilates, whether you're commuting, taking the dog for a walk. This morning, in fact, we had an amazing conversation about this idea of digital campfires And specifically this idea of secret communities. It's something that we were doing a live read of Mark Schaefer's new book called Belonging to the Brand. And recognizing that in Discord and in certain places, Fortnite and FIFA and Roblox, there are these secret communities. These are communities where you need a membership pass to get in. They're intimate communities where people are gathering around the campfire. And if you are a brand and you want to join the conversation, well, you have to join the conversation. You cannot dictate, you cannot control. They're very different rules today. An amazing conversation. And if you missed it today, fear not, because we actually put it out every single morning. Can you believe this? This week, 4 of these amazing conversations I've had on Joseph Jaffe is Not Famous, and 5 episodes of the Collective Cafe. You can actually subscribe. All you have to do is go to bit.ly/Collective Cafe to make sure that you never miss a single episode. But that's, enough about me. Let's get into a seated soliloquy. And the seated soliloquy today is called Mediocrity. And I'll tell you, this seated soliloquy 100% has to do with my guest, Lisa Copeland. She is definitely not mediocre. She is anything but. In fact, her life's mission is to crush mediocrity. Like Mr. Burns, you're like, I'll crush you like a paper cup. Oh, Smithers, I'm exhausted. There's nothing exhausting about crushing mediocrity. There is something exhausting about mediocrity. Look, this connects to me at a very visceral, at a very powerful, at a very primal level. I believe everyone needs an enemy. Everyone has to push off against something. And for me, the enemy is mediocrity, average, think about this for a second. They say customer satisfaction, but satisfaction comes from the word satisfactory. Do you want to be satisfactory? Is being satisfactory enough to be good, to be great, to be excellent, to succeed, to beat your competitors, to crush your competition? Hell no. Average is not good enough. Mediocre is not good enough. Satisfactory is not good enough. You need to be able to defeat the mediocre, the mundane, the average, the apathetic. If you want to be great, if you want to be brilliant, if you want to shine, yeah, you're going to take risks, you're going to fail. But you know what is mediocre in my books? It's somebody that doesn't take a risk, that is too afraid to fail, that is too afraid to take a chance. That's mediocrity at its core. And my guest today, as I was saying, is anything but mediocre. Now, to introduce her, I have been going to the trusty ChatGPT AI bot and asking the machine to work with me as a partner in crime to do justice to my guest. And here is her introduction. Get ready to be inspired by the dynamo that is Lisa Copeland. With over 25 years of experience revolutionizing the automotive industry, she's now sharing her wealth-building secrets in real estate and investing. A trailblazer and award-winning powerhouse, Lisa has been recognized as a top woman in her field and has consulted for giants like Google and Dell. She's also an Audible aficionado with 14 books under her belt this year alone, a daily Pilates devotee, and a proud grandma to 3 grandsons. Don't miss her invaluable insights on building wealth and defying mediocrity on today's show. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Hello. So I'm kind of excited. Chad even knows who I am.
I'm telling you. And a grandmother?
I'm Lala.
Oh, you're Lala?
I am Lala. And it's funny, my oldest grandson, Eli, I never forget, he was about 6 years old and he came to the front door one day and it was grandparents' day at school and he was really upset. And he said, Lala, I was at grandparents' day today and I told them I didn't have a grandmother. I had a Lala, and everybody laughed at me. And I'm like, no, everybody wants to be Lala instead of grandma.
Did you tell Eli that they even made a movie about you called La La Land?
That's right. And then we have a very dear friend whose grandmother is Nigerian. And so when we went to Disney World one time, we met them out in Disney World, and the little girl was the same age as Eli. She was 5 years old at the time. And he said, "This is my Lala." And she said, "Well, in Nigerian, that means queen." And Eli looked at me and he goes, "I knew you were a queen." So Lala's good.
So we've learned a lot about Lala, the ageless grandmother, but also
Queen.
the queen. Exactly.
The queen in Nigeria. If I was in Nigeria, I'm Lala, I would be the queen.
All right, Queen Lala, we're going to change we're going to change this description very quickly.
Oh my gosh.
And I love it because I was looking at your bio and I was looking at your website, and I read powerful female keynote speaker, business leader, dedicated pioneer in sales and brand strategy, author,
I have a
of
good
course.
copywriter, don't I?
I'm telling you. Well, I learned it as well when I went out on my own and became a keynote speaker, that guess what? We write our own bios, and we better, because if we don't think we're brilliant, if we don't think we're the best in the world, then how the hell will anyone else?
Right.
But Lisa, there was a word that really popped, and that word clearly is female. Powerful female keynote speaker.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about why it's important to say that, to say powerful female keynote speaker, and certainly, why we need more.
Yeah. So, I'm usually hired by the VP of sales. I've probably done over 200 keynotes. I'm under management by 2 different speakers agencies. And I get hired because, so many women, when it comes to speaking, a lot of times women are considered motivational speakers. I'm not a motivational speaker. Like, I tell it like it is. I am a sales strategist. I'm a sales keynote speaker. So in my arena, there are not that many women who've got a true track record of success. And especially in a male dominated industry like the automotive space. So hopefully from my pictures and my name, they figure out I'm a female. And like I said, in all transparency, I definitely had copywriters that did all of my promo material and all of my websites, and they felt like it was important at the time. And, they probably did some of that for analytics, right? When the meeting planners are there saying, we need a female keynote speaker. I don't know. I just go with it. I just show up and talk.
Well, and show up you do, and talk you do, and talk amazingly you do. But I think that's important. And even though you're being humble and you're deferring the accolades to your copywriters, I love the fact that you've chosen your words, and you've added words, and you've been very specific and very deliberate. And I think more people should do that. They should call out either what makes them different, or call out what makes them special, or call out what makes them better, or something that quite frankly, in this world now of bots and spiders and AI, you need to make sure that you pop, because the clutter has never been more pronounced.
Yeah, this whole AI thing, it's interesting. I've got a team of about 900 agents, real estate agents, which I know we haven't gotten there yet. But in a sales meeting I had for them last week, I said, guys, only thing AI has done for us is it has brought the bottom to the middle, to mediocrity, meaning everybody can say the same thing now because they just load it into chat. So it's more important today than ever that you set yourself aside from the crowd, that you're more distinct, you're more knowledgeable, that you know more than the AI bot does, and that you're able to communicate it both in the written word, the spoken word, on stages. And, because it's scary. I mean, it's scary to me because it's so funny. Like, I'll look on social media and somebody who hasn't said 3 words in 10 years, now all of a sudden they've got a 600-word blog that they've written. I'm like, AI. Like, I can sniff it out of the crowd. So I really hope people don't just rely on that, and that they don't lose their originality, and they don't lose their expertise. And I think that's how you'll stand out in the crowd.
I really love this idea of bringing the bottom to the middle.
Oh, it's done. Absolutely.
I mean, it's beautifully articulated, and essentially, I think what you're saying is, what it's doing is really kind of emphasizing the mediocre.
Oh, for sure.
So how does one, in fact, stand out from the crowd when everyone's doing it? Is it, in fact, just to be more human and more original, and work a little bit harder and not take the shortcut?
I think so. I believe so. And I love how you're talking about mediocrity. Of course, I co-authored a book with Renee Bangelsdorf back in 2016 called Crushing Mediocrity, 10 Ways to Rise Above the Status Quo. And, mediocre is to me, to go out and claim that you're an expert in a field and then type in something into a chat bot and, and then have it tell you what to say to people. I mean, I feel like, and this is what makes me nervous about AI, we still have to do the work. We still have to do the research. You have to bring it in. You have to own it. You have to learn it. You have to live it. You have to work it. You have to speak it. You have to breathe it. You've got to be able to communicate it. That is what makes somebody an expert, not just because they can copy and paste out of chat AI or whatever it's called. I mean, I have it too. There are times, where I'll go in and I'll put something in to kind of start my brain, but you'll never see me go in and copy and paste it and call it my own. And, and that's the point I was trying to get across to my team, because what's happening now is that the bottom, the people that were never willing to do the work, now they have found what they think is the ultimate shortcut. They're going to get rich. They're going to do this. They're going to write a book. They're going to write a course. They're going to, blah, 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 because they found a shortcut. But, people that don't do the work, they will always stand out in the end. Always. I'm very passionate about this because, literally, like I said, I run a huge sales team. And
hey, wait a second. You need the first air horn as well. I love it because they say the cream will always rise to the top. And what you're saying is, what's the other saying, which is people rise to the level of their own incompetence. And I guess what you're saying is you will eventually be shown up if you don't do the work, versus what you said, which is this idea of, start your brain, just get a little bit of a, maybe a little bit of an inspiration, but then put it aside and start to do the real work.
Well, and especially in the industry I'm in, which is wealth creation for real estate. I can't imagine being in a conversation with a client and going, well, wait a minute, stop. Let me load this into chat so that I know how to answer your question, or I know how to give you the best advice, and I think it's going to come to that. I don't even know what's going to happen in schools and in colleges, because now you can load it all in, and then there's other apps that'll scramble it so that they can't pick up it was AI. I mean, I think it's just going to get so far gone. It's frightening.
I'm
not a super fan, you can tell.
No, I mean, and what I've been doing, it's been very interesting because every morning we do the Collective Cafe. I speak for about an hour. There are people in the audience. Sometimes they come up, sometimes they don't. But for the most part, I'm talking for a full hour. And then I get a transcript there's an AI service called otter.ai. I get the transcript, and now I'm feeding it into playing around, experimenting with OpenAI, saying, summarize this into an 800-word article. But the interesting thing about it, so essentially I've been joking that I'm plagiarizing myself, which is, I think, okay.
That's okay.
But they don't get the essence of what I'm talking about.
Right.
The nuance, the crazy accent, the weird examples. It comes across as so vanilla. And I can see that. I can absolutely see that. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I've done that before too. It's like when I go speak, when we wrote the book Crushing Mediocrity, we did a lot of interviews with people, and then we would have it transcribed, and that's, I think that's important when you're trying to create content. Like, there are certain things to do, but, just like Joseph, when you speak every morning for an hour, you're speaking from the cuff, from the heart, from your experience, you're bouncing off a guest, you're doing whatever, but they're your words. So I'm all about whatever we do with our words and repurposing our words to create multiple streams of content. What I don't like is people that don't have an original thought, and we all know who they are, right? You see your people on social media, and now all of a sudden they're scholars and they've written a book, and I'm just like, oh my God, it's fake news. I don't like it.
Well, I mean, you're talking about the book, and it just so happens that I have a certain book trailer here. So let's watch that, and then we'll continue this discussion about mediocrity.
Okay.
So now we've got a crushing mediocrity,
Yeah.
beautiful collage.
Love it.
I love so many aspects about it because, first of all, let's talk about equating mediocrity with status quo, with this idea of accepting your lot in life, accepting what life has done to you as opposed to for you. So talk a little bit about the importance of rising above the status quo to be able to create and use that adversity to fuel you and create greatness.
So let me explain how my co-author Renee Bangelsdorf and I. So all those little vignettes you saw through that video, those were all like little stories that we told in the book of powerful men and women that she and I have both met and known over the years, and they are people that truly. So status quo, y'all, or mediocrity. What it means is the definition. It's just to be in the middle. So most people are okay being in the middle. And so after we wrote the book, that's when our speaking careers just went crazy. We both got signed by agents in New York. We spoke. Every company in the world wanted to hire us. How do you crush mediocrity? How do we get our sales teams fired up? And, and when I would talk to the VPs of sales, I would say, understand this. The majority of people, they are good. They got a paycheck. They don't have any, pressure on them. They're just good doing what they do every day. They get up, they go to work, they're safe, they're not having to push the boundaries. So, the majority of people really don't want to hear the message about crushing mediocrity. Now, it's great when we get hired for it all the time, still do to this day, to go out and speak, because when you're in a sales organization, you're an entrepreneur. If you're mediocre, you're going broke. You're not going to make enough money. You're either going broke or you're getting fired. Something's going to happen to you. But the average person really is not that interested in crushing mediocrity, because life is good. Like, Lisa, why? And I've had people ask me for years, why do you want to do what you do? Why do you always have to overproduce? Why do you have to be number one? Like, what drives you? And I'm like, I don't want to be in the pack. I want to stand ahead of the pack. I want to be better than the rest. I don't know what drives that or what has driven it, but it's been that way my whole life, and definitely my whole business career. But it's very rare to find that in people. So, we came up with the 10 ways to crush mediocrity, but just the first one is the most important one, and it's important in your life and it's in your business. It's understanding your purpose. Do you believe that what you do matters? Because if you don't believe that what you do matters, you're never going to be great. You're always going to be mediocre. See, the people that don't believe that what they do matters, they're like, I'm here, I'm getting a paycheck, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm going home, I'm going to sit on the couch, I'm going to drink a beer, and I'm going to get up and do it all over again tomorrow morning. And, you think about purpose-driven people, and one of the best purpose-driven, and we talk about it in the book and we talk about it on stage, is, you think about the brave men and women that serve our country, right? In the military. That's a purpose-driven job. How about our first responders? They're running into burning buildings. They're out there, fighting the front lines of COVID. They're out there because they, 90% of them, and our teachers, I don't want to leave anybody out. 90% of those people, when they were a kid, they said, I'm going to be a fireman, I'm going to be a policeman, I'm going to be a teacher, I'm going to be a soldier in the army, I'm going to do whatever. So their purpose drove them. And so it was, for those people, it's not about the money. It's not about, look at me. It's not about anything other than that they are fulfilling their underlying purpose. And when people do that, they're willing to run into a burning building because they believe that they were built for this. They were born for this. So you take that mindset and you take it to corporate America, or you take it to an entrepreneur, and that's where a lot of times they don't have that mindset. So no matter what I've done, whether it was the automotive industry, which, our goal was to revolutionize the auto industry by hiring women, minorities, and millennials, right? And then go out and break a world sales record. So that was our purpose. And then we happened to sell a lot of cars along the way. And then in real estate, I had to recreate what I did in the auto industry. And so our purpose is to help people build generational wealth through real estate. And so when your purpose is big, when on the bad days, you don't quit. You don't quit because, you look back and you're like, oh, okay, this is why I do what I do. I mean, think about our first responders and the doctors and nurses and all the frontline workers during the pandemic. I mean, every single day they knew, especially in the beginning, that they didn't know what they were up against, but they knew that they were driven to go in there and save lives.
I mean, I feel so motivated right now. But you're not a motivational speaker. But you're not. Sure. You are now.
Yeah,
Checks in the
go.
mail.
There you go. Checks in the mail. I thought so.
You said a few fantastic things that I just want to emphasize. Number one is this is the litmus test, right? On the bad days, you don't quit.
That's right.
Right. When the going gets tough, that's when the reserves, that's when everything kicks in. That's when when you realize that what you do matters, that you matter, that you're making a difference. I really love that.
Every doctor and nurse quit during the pandemic and just said, I can't do this. This is terrifying. Like, I'm putting myself at risk to save lives. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going home.
And those weren't just bad days. But
they were, I mean, their lives were on the line. How about our soldiers, that are out there fighting wars that they don't even understand sometimes, right? I mean, I can go on and on and on. But, they're like, but I was built for this. I was trained for this. This is what I said I was going to do, because what I do matters. And those doctors and those brave frontline workers during the pandemic, what they did mattered. I mean, they kept the wheels on the bus in this country and around the world, and they kept people alive, even at their own perils sometimes.
And, let's include teachers.
Teachers. Yeah, I said teachers earlier. I love teachers.
But let's include also a bunch of professions that don't necessarily get paid what they should. So we're going to segue into real estate, and we're going to segue into investing, and we're going to segue into generational wealth and how people can actually make the money that they deserve, or at least that they're capable of making, that they can pass on to generations to come. But let's just talk a little bit about the idea of purpose and matters, because the reality is you can be a janitor, you can be a cashier, you can be someone that is sweeping the floors,
for sure,
and you can feel that sense of pride, of passion, of purpose.
Right.
And talk a little bit about those people, because this is an and, right? I agree with everything. How do you bring that purpose and that passion and overcome mediocrity when you are something like a toll booth operator? Because we see it in people. We see the difference between someone who has a spring in their step. Lisa, let's talk about these gate agents of these airlines that can be so damn rude and disgusting and disrespectful. And then you will see someone who's in the same position, and they will just, they just bring it, and they stand out unbelievably. So talk a little bit about those people.
Yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to employees, it starts with leadership. It starts with leadership. So I think back to, the dealership, and I would let my receptionist know, my former receptionist, to this day, we are still friends. I've been gone for 7 years, and she doesn't work there anymore either. But, I said, your purpose is, you're the most important person in this dealership. You're more important than me. You're more important than the salespeople. You are the first contact with our clients. People are going to either walk in, come in, do business with us 100% because of how you treat them. You're so important to me. You're so important to the business. You're so important to the salespeople. You're so important to the profitability and the bottom line of this company. And she owned it. I mean, she was the gatekeeper. Like, and I was always telling her that. I'm not like, oh, you're just a receptionist and you make X amount an hour and you don't matter. You're disposable. No. So the only way that people that work in the middle, right, that can get into that mindset, it comes down to leadership. And I think about the person at the airport. I think about the person that's a complete jerk, and they're totally there. They got their headphones in and they're just barely doing their job and they're hassling you. And then I think about the person who's really like, you know what? I work for TSA, and my job is to make sure that you are safe, that we are safe, air travel is safe. I'm not trying to hassle you, right? And I think that when you're in those positions, I really believe it's 100% on the management. You either have great leaders and great management, or you have poor leadership and poor management. And that's because the leader, whoever that leader might be, doesn't believe that what they do matters. Because the minute that they believe that what they do matters, then it goes downhill. So if that supervisor doesn't believe that what they do matters, that means the one above them, maybe the regional VP, doesn't believe, you know what I'm saying? So it starts with the CEO. It starts with the boss. And so, you've got to have purpose-driven leadership.
It's a domino of mediocrity, if you
Million
will.
percent.
Yeah, and
So when these companies bring me in, that's typically, who hires me is the VP of sales, always, because they always like the fact that I'm all about sales, and I live and die by that. And and they'll say to me, "Oh, you got to kick our salespeople in the butt. You got to do this. You got to do that." And I'm like, whoa. We got to start with you. What do you believe?
Kick you in the butt.
Yeah. What do you believe? What are you putting out there into the universe? How are you leading? And, there are times they're like, whoa, I didn't hire you for that. And I'm like, well, then you may not want to hire me, because a 45-minute motivational speech is not going to do anything other than motivate them for another 45 minutes. And then usually I'm the closing keynote. I'm the only person standing between them and happy hour at these conferences, right? So they're like, yeah. And then they're out. They're in the bar. So
I love being the opening speaker, and I love being the closing speaker, because the closing speaker, you get to make the first impression, you get to make the last impression, you get to motivate them, and you basically get to reflect on everything that they've just seen and heard, and say, and if you don't do anything about it, then you are mediocre. If you got all inspired and excited and you go back to your unread emails and all your customer complaints, then we all failed. So yeah, I like closing as well, except if I'm ever doing an event where you're speaking as well, I'll be like, I will set her up. She is the closer.
I am the closer. That's so funny. I was at a charity event the other night, and the head of the charity said, okay, I want you to make the ask at the end. And so I was the last speaker, and I got up and I said, hey guys, I'm the closer. Bottom line is, I'm standing between you and happy hour. All I need is a check, for this, but that's,
So
because I believe, right? I believe that the charity mattered, and that what she did mattered. And I believe everybody in that room needed to write a check.
Well, that's why you are now Queen Lisa Copeland. We have updated. Queen Lala Copeland as well.
That's right. You're like my new best friend.
Lisa, I was like so many people. I was on Clubhouse during the last 3 years, and I witnessed an influx of people that I'd never met before. A group of people, a bunch of weird people in real estate, and people in automotive, and people like Brian Benstock, and
very dear friend of mine.
And all of these weird people like you, Lisa, that were just so dynamic and incredible. And I was like, what is going on in the drinking water in these dynamic automotive leaders, sales leaders, consultants, and real estate? What makes the real estate profession, and specifically within a subset automotive, not of real estate, but you put the two together, why are people so unbelievably dynamic, articulate, extroverted, motivating, compared to, I didn't see all these financial services and hedge fund managers, also the Grant Cardones, all of these people came out, and they were like, who is this new wave of madmen and women?
Yeah, it's great. So you mentioned several of my friends. So Brian Benstock and I met back in 2012 at an event that they invite all the number one dealers in the country. So number one for Mercedes, number one for Fiat Alfa Romeo, number one for Honda. So I was number one Fiat Alfa Romeo. He was number one Honda. So he and I met back in 2012 and have been very, very dear friends ever since. Love the guy. I've got mad respect for him. Grant Cardone and I go back to about 2012, and his wife Elena is on my real estate team. So I work with the Cardones all the time. I have mad respect for them. I think I know what it is, and people have asked us that before. And it's about we're viciously competitive. Like, we want to win. And after I met Brian Benstock, he was like, I'm going to be number one. I'm going to be number one. Well, my thing was to be number one. And so when you meet other people like that want to be number one in their segment, number one in what they do, it's competitive. And there's something about us that we all just really get along really well. I've been to New York many times to see Brian, to work with his teams. Grant and I met in 2011. He walked into my car dealership. Grant Cardone did, and he was selling training. And I spent 2.5 hours with him. And I tell him all the time, like, most general managers, at that time I was not an owner, I was just a general manager, and nobody else would take a meeting with him that day. Nobody. And I tell him all the time, I'm like, two things. I'm so glad I took that meeting with you. And number two, I'm glad we exchanged phone numbers. And then over the years, we ran into each other on the speaking circuit, because I was doing a lot of speaking in the automotive industry. And then we kind of reconnected on Clubhouse. So I had a Monday morning show, Monday, Wednesday, Friday on Breakfast with Champions. Glenn Lundy, very dear friend of mine from the auto industry.
He's been on the show before as well.
He's a good guy. He's just good people. He was in Austin last week, and he and I had lunch, and it was great. Anyways, I adore him. He's like a brother to me. So anyways, I had a big show, about 1,000 people every morning. And so, because back then it was really big, Clubhouse was big. And so I called Grant and I said, hey, I haven't talked to you in a long time, but I've got one of the biggest shows on Clubhouse. Will you come be a guest? And he was like, I'll be a guest, sure. And so I had Grant on a few times. So we got to kind of get reacquainted. And then everyone told me I was crazy, but I went to him and I said, this is a very short version of a very long story, but bottom line is I went to him and I said, hey, you're in real estate. You're like the Church of Cardone in the fact that your followers will do whatever you tell them to do. Why don't you join my real estate team? And so obviously Grant did not do that, but Elena did. Elena answered the call, and she's become one of my very best friends, and I love her dearly. I love the Cardones. And so I'm so grateful that I took that meeting back in 2011, and I talked to this guy who had not even written 10X yet, and he walked into my dealership and sat down in my office, and it's crazy. So,
and there were so
take
many
the meeting, people. Take the meeting. Like, you never know who you're going to meet, and 12 years later, here you go.
There you go. Take the meeting.
Take the meeting.
So I have a lot of fun on this show when I'm not interviewing queens, and I tell people what they're.
I like this about you.
And I and I tell them what. Well, so I tell people what their next book is going to be, their next best-selling book, and you've written a bunch of them. Your next book is going to be called "Take the Meeting."
Oh, I like it.
I'm telling you, I have produced.
Okay.
Some of the best-selling books in the entire world, in my mind.
Okay.
No, but take the meeting.
In my mind, so it's good.
It speaks to everything that you stand for. It's about pushing yourself. It's about not being lazy. It's not about let's clock off. It's let's punch out. Take the meeting. It's like you never know who's going to be sitting next to you in a clubhouse room, on the plane, etc.
I have so many stories about taking the meeting, and today I've got 2 meetings. I got 2 meetings with people that I have no clue what's going to happen from them, but I thought, I'm going to go. Why wouldn't I?
It's also why I love my purpose and what matters to me, which is having these incredible conversations. And now you can tell Brian, you can tell Grant, you can tell you can tell Nelson, you can tell the whole crew that they're welcome to come on the show. I love the dynamism. And you said something else, Lisa, which is so critical. And I try and point these out for people that are watching, which is this idea that when you are around other A types, people that want to be number one, you can get very alpha male or female. You can get very threatened. You can be very insecure and very paranoid, or you can actually just enjoy and feed off all of that energy and say, let's challenge each other to be better, and let's all win together, as opposed to at the expense of one another.
Oh yeah,
I think that is the limiting mindset that we need to get rid of, as opposed to the abundant mindset that says, let's form our own little community, our own little secret society, and crush it together.
And I have so many great Brian Benstock stories. I won't go into this, but I've had more fun in New York, going there. I've had several clients there at one point, and like he and I almost got shot by the Secret Service just sitting on having a glass of wine on Fifth Avenue. Like, we have so many great stories, but people like him and like Grant and like Glenn Lundy, like, they feed me. They feed my soul. Number one, they're my friends. So like, they're loyal to me. They always tell me the truth, whether I want to hear it or not. They have a lot of respect for me, and I have a lot of respect for them. And so there's this like loyalty bond, and I could call Brian tomorrow and go, I need help. I need money. Any of those guys I could call, and vice versa, So it's never been a competitive thing, and maybe because I'm a woman, and so anyways, they've all been great to me. Just massive respect, massive support.
Take the meeting.
Take the meeting. That's my next book, people. I just make the announcement.
I love it. I just want to. Can I endorse it? Can I get a signed copy?
Please,
Can I write a chapter?
Take the meeting.
So I want to just close off on this idea of mediocrity, because I think people are watching and they're thinking without question, I am, in fact, I saw a comment come in from Claudianne Hibbert-Smith.
Oh,
She's got fire there. There's fire.
Girl, no, you have to understand, this girl, Claudianne Hibbert-Smith, she's on my real estate team. She's #1 under Elena Cardone. She's an absolute force of nature. Like we all look to see what Claudianne's doing so we can plot our next steps. Nice. That is how big Claudianne is to us. And
well, I mean, the fire is in all of us. So I always try and find a quote on the subject or the theme at hand. With you, I actually found two, and we're going to start off with this one. I love this one. I react very badly when mediocrity throws a tantrum of entitlement.
Oh, get me started on that one.
I want you to tell us what reaction you have to that.
Well, I just think we live, we talk about in the book about participation trophies and how we hate them. So my co-author, amazing. You need to have her on the show. Her name's Renee Mangelsdorf, and she was one of the top female jet brokers in the world. And she's a phenomenal human being, high achiever in the aviation industry, my very best friend in the world. Anyways, she's amazing. And we were just talking about the fact that it's like when our kids were young, they had to compete. There was select this and select that. And now it's like everybody gets a trophy. Little Johnny, you lose, you get a trophy. Like, what in the world? And that is what's caused all these people, these kids going to college and living in their parents' basements. I mean, as soon as I was done, my parents kicked me out and said, good luck, and I'm glad they did. Thank God they did, or I wouldn't be who I am today.
Yeah, well, I see that's a different book called The Tantrum of Entitlement, but it's very alliterative. Now,
I cannot write that book. I would probably be canceled all over the place.
Yeah, so we will move over to a second quote, and you will never believe who actually said this, which is why I actually chose it. Mediocrity is the best drug for enslaving the people. I'm just going to tell you who said it because you would never believe it. It was Pope Francis. Like how, why, when, where.
Yes.
Isn't that interesting? That's coming from the Pope.
I need to not say much on that, but there's a lot of people in our country enslaved today to mediocrity because it's entitlement. It's just what it gets down to. Like, I don't want to do the work, but I want all the benefits. I don't want to do this because I deserve all the benefits. So anyways.
Yeah, we won't get you canceled today or tomorrow.
I appreciate that.
And Lisa Reyes is here. Reyes is here as well. I mean, the thing is, without going down that path a little bit more, I think there is an interesting conversation that actually allows us to be able to motivate ourselves, motivate each other. And even going back to the best of these Clubhouse days, sitting in the audience, listening, being selective. But ultimately, there was another quote that I almost chose as well that spoke about jealousy. And I just think that even at the most human level, we have a choice in life. We have a choice. We have a choice whether we want to accept where we are or we want to. That's why the video spoke to me, which is you can change the world or you can lament about what has happened to you leading up to that moment when you decided to change the world. And I think if you just work backwards, I think everyone has it in them.
You just can't be a victim of circumstance, right? Every one of us has a story. Every one of us has had to pull themselves out. I don't care who you are. And there are some people that use that story to fuel them to go to the next level. Then there are people that use that story to victimize themselves, to make excuses as to why they're not going to the next level. And then there are some people that sit in the middle and they're just like, oh, that's my story. I can never change it. I'm good. I got a 9 to 5. I got a paycheck. I'm making 40 grand a year. I'm happy. Leave me alone. Okay. you know?
As long as,
So
I mean, yeah.
that's about the 3 buckets of people.
Well, and when the bucket is leaky, then
Yeah.
no, I'm trying to like extend the metaphor. Let's spend the last amount of time we have today to talk about this idea of, I heard this a lot during the Clubhouse days. I heard this a lot during the dawn of Web3, this idea of generational wealth and building wealth in general. What do I need to know? What do people need to know about real estate investing and ultimately building wealth? How do we create wealth? And especially, Lisa, during these ridiculously tough, turbulent, unstable, volatile times.
Yeah, and that's really a show in itself. But just, let me just give you guys a simple economics lesson here that hopefully it'll make sense. Inflation is sitting between 7 and 8% right now, right? If you're in Scottsdale, it's at 19%. If you're in San Francisco, it's at 1.9%. But if you come across the country at an average is 7 to 8%. What does that mean? The figures I'm giving you is that cost of goods are 7 to 8% higher than they were in 2020. So those are the stats I'm giving you between 2020 and today. So if you're lucky enough to have some cash and you've got a savings account, your savings account, if you're lucky, if you can make a $5,000 minimum deposit, you're going to earn 4%. So that means your money in the bank is earning 4%, but your cost of goods, your groceries, your gas, your travel, your insurance, like anything other than fixed housing expenses or things that are fixed, right? Your fixed car loan, things like that. But even that gets taken into effect if you get it now, is costing you 8% more. So that means cash is trash. You're sitting in the bank and you're paying 8% more for something, but you're only earning 4% on your money. So you got a 4% delta. The easiest, not the most profound way I would explain it if I was sitting in a room of financial advisors, but that's just for the masses, okay? In real estate, the average appreciation on a home, okay, average around the country is anywhere from 7 to 15%. So how do you outrun inflation? You buy real estate. You buy an appreciating asset versus putting cash in a bank and just letting it sit there and devalue, which is what's happening right now. So there's a million ways. I'm speaking a lot about it. There's orphaned IRAs, Roth IRAs, orphaned 401ks, your HSA account, which is health savings account. There's so many ways that you can redirect, put those into self-directed IRAs and invest that into real estate. You need to stay broke. And I really, really have learned that from my good friend, Grant Cardone. You don't need, to go out and buy all the expensive items if you're not heavily invested in cash flowing assets, right? What happens when the economy gets bad? What happens when you get laid off? Well, you lose that source of income, but your real estate, your cash flow asset is going to continue to pay you, because as times get worse, typically rent goes up. Unfortunately, that's when the people, right, is when times get tough, because then they can't buy homes, but then, then they have to rent. So again, it's a full show, but the bottom line is there's so many ways to buy real estate, y'all. You might think like, I don't have any money, but you have other assets. You have other people. You come together, you form a syndicate. You find 2 or 3 people to put a little money in. There's mortgages out there that you don't have to have any income at all. And they're not the stated income loans, but they're based on the income from the property that the property produces. You can get qualified on that. So there are just so many ways. So Joseph, my life is now dedicated to, I teach these courses. I go live. I'm on StreamYard like you. I bring in experts. Like, I want to show people, like, the best way, y'all, to get out of mediocrity, best way is to have assets, is to have cash flowing, cash producing assets. The best way to not be fearful in this economy and what's going on planet Earth is to have assets that cash flow. Because if something happens to your job, that you've got a bucket of money over here that's cash flowing. You've got, why I like eXp Realty, I've got 900 agents on my team. I get paid on them every single month. So that's another bucket of residual income, right? So it's setting up buckets of residual income so that you're making money in your sleep.
I like the sound of that. And that gives you your second air horn. You might be setting a record for
I was going to
air
ask
horns.
you, what is the record? Because if I don't make the record, I'm not going to be happy.
I
I
think
need to have something profound to say.
You're already coming back. Grant is coming on. Brian's coming on. Nelson's coming on. Your co-author's coming on. You're basically you've taken over my show. And your next book is going to be called afterwards. Is going to be called Cash is Trash.
Well, I actually pulled that from Grant Cardone. He says it all the time. And
we're going to give you credit for it. We're finding words. So Grant's going to have to come on the show to basically refute the plagiarism. ChatGPT said that Lisa I'm going to train ChatGPT.
Thank you. I love that. Yes.
To be like if anybody says who said this statement, it was Lisa.
It was not Grant Cardone. It was not Grant Cardone.
It was not. He is a pretender. He is a play. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Me against the billionaire.
Exactly. Who's going to win? Well, I love the idea also of the concept of a syndicate, right? Which is the implication coming from this is you don't have to do this alone. You don't have to be a loner. You don't have to be lonely, be afraid. If find your people, find your tribe, find other people that have that like-minded mindset, and then do it together. It's a simple, and yet a very, very powerful piece of advice.
It really is. And so, which I'm sure you're going to tell people how to follow me because I do classes on this, right? Like how to form a syndicate, and a syndicate, all you're doing is.
If only I knew ways for people to get hold of you or to.
I was like, what am I looking at now? Oh, I'm looking at my other website. Okay.
We're on lisacopeland.com. What else can we do to make sure that people are listening out for you on Clubhouse, on Instagram?
Well, I will tell you, starting next Tuesday, I'm super excited, super honored. Elena Cardone and I are starting a show called Building Empires. I think we're going to call it Building Empires, but it's on at 6 Central. 7 Eastern, so 6 Central, 7 Eastern PM, every Tuesday and Thursday night on Twitter Spaces. And Mr. Grant is our first interview next week. And we've lined up some really, really phenomenal people. And, and we're really committed to talk about what's going on today in the world. We're talking how to build wealth. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about maybe some things people don't want to talk about. So, and so anyway, so Grant is our first interview next Tuesday. So we've kind of moved from Clubhouse over to Twitter Spaces, because my dream is to get Elon in the room.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
I just have this massive goal that I want to talk to Elon Musk.
Me too. I mean, look, I even had his doppelganger.
I saw that.
I mean, and people kept on saying it's a deep fake. I'm like, no, he wasn't. We were sitting there with Google Translate talking to one another. But, Elon is, I don't know, focused on spaceships at the moment.
That hasn't worked out very well for him today, though. So.
And apparently he did very well. Apparently, this is the interesting thing, Lisa. The goal was just to clear the launch.
Oh, okay.
So,
before it blew up.
Yeah, exactly. So he cleared the launch and everything was just gravy, I suppose. Or maybe that's spin. I'm not
really sure. I love Elon. I have massive, massive respect for him. I had massive respect for him. If you guys Google this, I was on Mornings with Maria on Fox. I was the keynote speaker for the New York Auto Show. So this was probably in 2016. And Elon was in some kind of something. I don't even remember. But Elon's always in something, right? And so I was on Mornings with Maria on Fox. And I thought I was going to be talking about the New York Auto Show, but instead they asked me all about Elon. So in 2016, I had Elon's back. I'm like, because everyone thought, oh, Tesla's done and they're out for the count. And I say this to millions of people on Fox News. I'm like, no, Elon's not going anywhere. Promise you guys, he is the guy. Anyways, I just went on and on about Elon Musk. So I've actually taken that clip many times, cut it down, retweeted it, tagged him in it. I'm like, Elon, who had your back in 2016? Me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, now you've got this clip as well, so
That's
you can
right.
use this.
I love that guy.
Maybe I'll get Elon Ma in China to basically record a message as well. He's my friend, as you can tell.
Yes.
And we'll make it happen.
We'll just tag Team Musk. So
tag team hashtag.
That's our big place to connect with me and Elena Cardone is on Tuesday and Thursday nights. Twitter Spaces. You have to follow me, Lisa C. Copeland at Twitter, or Elena Cardone.
There it is. And look, if you really, really want to get in with Lisa Copeland and find out what makes her tick and become part of the inner circle, then you need to go and do Pilates with her every day, because I told you there are a few little surprises as well.
Okay, first of all, I wish I looked like that in Pilates.
I mean, your hair looks fantastic as
My hair
well.
looks good. I look skinny. I love that.
Look at what are you talking about? It is you.
Oh my
It is
God,
you.
that's
And
hilarious.
then of course, when she's not doing Pilates, she is an avid Audible girl, as
Yes.
you found out as well.
14 books. Elena and I have we have our own little Audible club that she and I do. And we try to see who finishes the book first, and then we pick the next book. We're on all the Bill O'Reilly books right now, all the Killing of, the Mob, and the Legends, and anyways, it's so good. And yeah, I love Audible. I have to drive a lot, so I used to listen to
It also seems you don't waste your time.
No.
You kill two birds with one stone. If you
For
are
sure.
driving, then you're also feeding your mind, your soul, your brain.
Because I don't want to become a chatbot. So Joseph, that's part of it. Like, y'all, if you don't want to just become chatbot yourself, like, you've got to hear books and other people's perspectives. I even listened to a couple books and people, I just do not like them at all. But I thought, you know what? I think they're crazy. Now, by the time I was done with the book, I was convinced that they are crazy, but I listen to it anyways, right? Like, to try to listen, to open my mind. I do a lot of books on, finances. I do a lot of books on real estate. I do a lot of books on conspiracy theories. I do a lot of books on, anything to better my craft, to better my mind, to give me more conversation points.
You see, ChatGPT would not have come up with listen to crazy Audible or to Audible books of crazy people.
Well, it probably will now, because we've set it to the universe. Either that or you're going to plug it in.
Lisa, when we look back on your career now, one of the things that I've been asking everyone at the end is what do you know now that you didn't know then? What would you tell Lisa from 20 years ago? And would she have taken the advice?
Oh, she would not have taken the advice. I know me. But I would have gotten into real estate sooner. So I was in real estate 20 years ago doing mortgages, which we still own the mortgage company I started 23 or 4 years ago. But I would have gotten in this side of the real estate industry first. I don't want to say I would have skipped over the car business, because I think it really gave me a lot of credibility and it taught me a lot. But I would have started doing what I'm doing sooner, and I didn't. When I sold the dealership, I did a TV show in Canada called Car Sharks with Kevin O'Leary. He was the proper television, and I just did a bunch of things. I was speaking, writing books, consulting, and I wish I would have done what I'm doing now 4 years ago, because I'd be like jumping on Cardone's heels, because I would know. I'm just, I'm 4 years behind the game. And it was funny. I was at Grant and Elena's house one night and we were having dinner, and it was just the three of us. It was me, Grant, and Elena, and we were on the back porch. It was after they had bought Tommy Hilfiger's house in Miami. And we're sitting on the back porch, and Grant brought a bottle of Cristal back there, and Elena doesn't drink. So Grant and I were drinking the bottle of Cristal. And I said, gee, I go, when did you get so far ahead of me? Because there was a day that I was kind of bigger than him in the car business. And he was like, he's like, when I got rid of those car dealers and I got into real estate. I'm like, you're so right. He was so right. And I'm like, okay, noted. And I just decided that minute on the porch, this was probably 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. I was like, that's it. I'm going to do what Grant did. That's just what I told myself. And I told him that too. And he's like, yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I know. It's cool. Like I love that. Grant pushes me to outer linear orbit, and I love that. Like you need that person in your life. And so there are just so many times that I go, okay, what would Grant do in this, or what would this, or whatever, because he's the person that started where I started, and I love where he's ended up. So, we have the same background. So.
And we're going to call that WWGD. What would Grant do?
Oh yes, he would love that.
Queen Lisa Copeland, Queen Lala Copeland. I'm so sad that you came in as a wallflower today, introverted, not afraid to speak your mind. not willing to, you were so mediocre and so average today. I'm so disappointed.
Sorry about that. I'll
in
tell you what, after that check gets to me, I'll tear it up and send it back to you.
But I'll tell you something, even in that insight and that little anecdote at the end, this idea of when did you get bigger than me? When did the teacher become the student, or the student become the teacher? But there really is a very simple message out there, which is if you are umming and ahhing and considering something and procrastinating, just do it. Do it today, because when you do it today, in 3 months or 6 months' time, you don't want to be that person looking back on today going, if only I had done it then. And you have the perfect moment. And if you weren't motivated today, you will never be motivated. You need to go out there and buy this book. You need to go out and crush mediocrity. You need to follow Lisa, and you need to listen to her and Elena's new podcast. And I'll tell you,
Empire Builders. That's what we're calling it. Empire Builders.
Empire Builders. And I can tell you as well, Lisa Reyes says, love that. But I know for a fact someone that will be buying your course, and someone that will be buying the book, and someone that will be listening to you on Twitter Spaces will be Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And we will be back soon with Brian Benstock, Grant Cardone, and a whole host of Lisa Copeland wannabes. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.